on your end as well if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So if you request permission to record, I'll just approve it if that's how it works.
There you go.
Brilliant. I haven't had a request, but I'm sure that's worked. Okay. Hi, guys. This is Angela Power Disney, Angie, and what should we call you?
Just Cat.
It's just Cat. In my opinion, one of the foremost researchers up there with Angafan and you know, a few other, the Coleman Report and Spotlight, and different bloggers. Kat's been getting like 500,000 hits a year on her blog, and she's been faithfully and fearlessly documenting and pulling together and joining dots on the subject of child abuse. Kat's field is mostly Scotland, but we're finding more and more that it's an international circuit. And that it's
all interlinked, yeah.
It's all interlinked. So we've wrestled for, well, I've wrestled certainly for a few days. I'm a survivor, as many know, and I've disclosed corroborating Esther Baker's story about being human hunted and believing Lord Bramwell to be one of the party. Esther Baker has been discredited, as has Carl Beach, aka Nick.
Not so discredited. She's not on the ICSA panel, though, isn't she? She's one of the core participants.
Right. Well, that's fantastic that she's still there, but then so is Harvey Proctor.
Yeah, exactly. There's a few dodgy characters, isn't there?
It's very triggering, and you know, the fact that Andrew Ash was taken out by being discredited. It's just such a simple tactic, whereby those that have very, very credible testimony are compromised. And this, to me, is how Parliament's been operating all these years.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, in the UK, they are conducting the public hearings of what is called the Independent Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse. It doesn't have any legal powers. It can't prosecute anybody, and it can only make recommendations. Boris Johnson said it cost 60 million, and in my experience, they usually overrun. And he referred to it as this child abuse malarkey, which is outrageous. And I have to remind myself, with people like Kat and others, when I'm feeling like it's never going to come out, we're never going to get justice. And I don't mean personal justice, I just mean the truth.
Yeah.
I just mean the truth. And so I have to console myself that, you know, we're further along than we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever. But I'm just horrified listening to MPs, sirs, lords, baronesses, and so on, lying under oath in a public inquiry that's costing the British public millions.
Countless millions, yep.
Yeah, and they're making an attempt. You know, the British public have every right to say, right, this is costing 60 million of taxpayers' money. Then, you know, if it's a public inquiry, let's participate. So it looks very good because it's live streamed, technically.
Supposedly.
Yeah. But the first thing we find announced is that there's a 3-minute delay on the live stream. Now, I'm used to following a lot of live streams, and you might sometimes get a 30-second delay, which is just technology. But a 3-minute delay is deliberate, and I would suggest that that is for if somebody slips up and says something too damning, that it can be edited out. There was also a point at which the questioning barrister said something like, oh, we announced that we weren't going to live stream this afternoon because of the sensitivity of your disclosures, but just cancel that. We're going to go ahead and live stream. And then yesterday, the afternoon session, which one thought was the afternoon session, but it wasn't. It was going back on the morning session. And then also the live streams are being taken down. So, you know, the way a live stream usually works is it's live, and then it's there to review and see later and refer to. Tell me what you saw about somebody had a live stream taken down for copyright. What was that about?
That was on their own site. That was when I clicked on one of the links to the live stream that I'd watched earlier. This was 2 days ago. I'd watched it earlier, and then I clicked on the link to go back to it. Somebody pointed it out to me, and it popped up that it was copyrighted with Channel 4. That was the IICSA YouTube channel. Their own channel is rubbish. It really is a joke. They're immediately pulling down the live streams, and then they're re-uploading them a few days later, and it does beg the question whether they're being edited.
Exactly.
Why would we need to re-upload them? Why can't they just stay there?
Yeah, because when I tuned in yesterday at 2 o'clock for the afternoon session, and then it went to 3 o'clock because the first 3 minutes is dead because they're lagging 3 minutes, and then the person, the younger barrister, said, "Oh, Your Honour, it is just after 1 o'clock, so shall I continue or shall we break for lunch?" And it's like, well, how come it's just after? It was 3:25 with me, so how come you were saying it was just after? So clearly we're not getting
live
streams. And I'm curious, if Channel 4 is facilitating the live streaming, are they covering it?
Well, that's what I wondered. Do you know, I would understand it possibly if the likes of Channel 4 were re-releasing it that day as a part of a documentary. I'd maybe understand it. But they're not, as far as I'm aware. I haven't seen anything. To be honest, I don't watch
live streaming. Because my point was, like, in America, they all watched the O.J. Simpson trial. Do you know what I mean? They have channels where you have, you know, look, Oscar Pistorius trial. Do you know what I mean? We get inundated, and I saw a funny joke on a video the other day about, you know, the American mainstream media covered Ebola for 6 months, which climbed to an epidemic of 1 victim.
Yeah.
So, you know, if they can do 24/7 coverage of things like that, you know, why isn't a mainstream channel covering this? But I just trust that somebody somewhere is downloading these and that we won't lose the evidence.
Yeah.
So, like, it's 1:20, and I think we're going to have to do a few of these. Like I said, it's hard for me not to be so disgusted. Like, Kenneth Clark was on this morning, and I probably will use a photograph I have of him as the thumbnail for this. But Kenneth Clark was on saying he's the longest serving MP. I think isn't he Sir Kenneth Clark?
Yep. Yeah, he is, I think, yeah.
It's interesting because they're kind of rowing back a bit on using the titles.
Are you shocked? I mean, we all know what Sir means. And it doesn't mean you're a nice man.
But anyway, he was on this morning and he tried to conclude it by saying something like, "Oh, I know I'm the longest serving MP, but, you know, I'm afraid I can't help you because in my time, I've never come across paedophilia in Parliament, you know." And then he threw Cyril Smith under the bus. So they've obviously decided Cyril Smith is the sacrificial lamb. So he says, other than Cyril Smith, that's blatantly obvious. And yet David Steele was saying he made a speech at the end of his testimony, which I completely challenge as having been untrue. He made a speech saying, "Oh, it's really very unseemly to talk about the dead. You know, poor Cyril's not here to defend."
Poor Cyril.
It's like, so you've got Kenneth Clark saying, "Oh, no doubt about Cyril Smith. He's the only one in my 50 years British politics. But other than that, sorry, I can't help you. I didn't come across such a thing." It's like,
yeah,
you know. So I think that before we launch into, we're going to do some focuses on certain people, and we could focus in on multiple politicians, lords, sirs, barons, baronesses, whatever.
Yeah.
I think if we say we're going to do a series where we'll focus in, but I just want to preface it, a very interesting talk this morning about how the job of the whip's office, the chief whip and the junior whips, was to document gossip and rumours.
The wee black book.
And they kept their little black books, and they were to write down anything that was bubbling under the surface. And then I think it was Joplin said, you know, if you think you could stop Private Eye publishing anything they wanted to publish, you're mad. You know, you're deluded. But these days they are trying to shut us up.
Oh yeah.
The equivalent of like yourself and others doing Scallywag or Private Eye or doing blogs with the truth, you know, back then you couldn't gag them, but clearly the goal now is to shut us up, pull us down, isolate us, character assassinate us, and basically, and I don't know, do you think, I don't know, it makes me feel a little bit hopeless, the fact that one after the other, the only good thing is that they're discrediting each other. And when they lie, it's so patently obvious. It's like, are you not embarrassed? Like, was David Steele not embarrassed?
Well, he shot himself in the foot. He really did.
Right, talk about that. Well, we'll go into that in detail. But okay, so let me just preface this. So consider us the whip's office. No SM puns intended. But consider us, and we're not just talking gossip. I think Kat and I both would only disclose with a minimum of 2+ disclosures. The other thing I want to preface this with as well, and I was wrestling with this in the week, is the thing about honouring survivors' fear of publicly disclosing and fear of being targeted, bumped off, sectioned, jailed, fitted up, and so on, which are very real fears, right? Mm-hmm. But my feeling is, and I can relate this personally, as well as the MK Ultra programs and paedophile rings in the military and everything, there was also familial abuse. And my mother was sexually abused from the age of about 20, 21, newly married to my dad, by her father-in-law. And she eventually disclosed to my dad and said, look, you've got to do something. My dad had gone to Germany on a military posting and left mum and us 3 older girls with his parents. And my granddad was molesting my mother, sexually assaulting my mother daily. And my mother called my dad home and said, you've got to do something. And she was persuaded, you don't go to the police. I've had a word with him. You must have led him on in some way, and we'll say no more about it. And my mother complied with that, and that grandfather went on to abuse me, at least 2 of my sisters, and multiple cousins. So the point I'm making to survivors, whether you're the son of a lord, the son of an MP, or the son of a railway man, it doesn't matter, whoever you are, I totally get the victimization and the trauma, but it's time to man up or put your big girl panties on and think, if I don't tell the truth, this person will continue to offend, and I will have blood on my hands for all the victims that follow me because I was too afraid to speak up.
I can understand the fear, to be honest. I'm not entirely sure what I'd do if I was in that situation, because the fear must be immense. So I do understand the fear, but as you said, there comes a time when enough is enough. And now there are enough survivors out there all speaking out and supporting each other. There is a support system. You know, and if you do speak out, there are people that you can talk to about it, people that have been in exactly the same situation or similar situation as you, that will be able to, you know, there is support there for people that do want to speak out. So I would encourage it. Yeah, I would still. Hopefully that more people will speak out, because that's what we need. Without the survivors speaking out, we have nothing. We don't have any information.
And not just that, but if it remains that only a few brave ones, like, because I'm from a military family, right? It makes me think of, imagine you're in a unit and you're in a war situation and it's life and death. And if your commander says, right, on the count of 3, we're going to go forward. We need to go in absolute unity and we're going to charge, right? So imagine if that squadron leader or whatever he is says, right, charge. And there's a unit of 50 members and only 3 go forward and the rest duck in the trenches. Well, how are those people, the rest that ducked and watched the 3 get shot down, how do you live with that?
Yeah.
How do you live with that? But anyway, so let's get into details. So I contacted you. I'm going to just go for it.
Yeah.
In the spirit of the whip's office and in the spirit of what are they going to do? You know, Dave, for instance, Sir David Steele, Lord David Steele, sued some newspapers back in the day. And I think it was his son, Rory, boasted about that the tower had been bought by an unexpected windfall of damages against a newspaper.
Yeah.
Now, 2 newspapers apparently published details of him having an affair with someone, and it was a woman. So, you know, let's whatever, not speculate about that. But he successfully sued and bought this tower with the proceeds. But let's just go into. I'm going to screen share. The Kat has sent me. Kat is a brilliant researcher.
A million links. Sorry.
No, I'm just a first-hand experience. And I've also taken a lot of, as Kat has, we've both taken disclosures from a lot of survivors over the years.
Yeah.
So, you know, we could call ourselves experts in our own right. But I'm going to go and find, let's go screen share. You talk while I'm locating these, Kat.
I don't know what to talk about. See, now you put me in a position. Yeah, we were talking the other night about David Steele and his testimony, or I don't know what to call it, testimony will do. And yeah, there is so many dodgy things surrounding David Steele. And when we started to look, I mean, how many articles did we pull up? And then Ange, of course, I mean, I'll let her explain it in more detail. But then Ange came up with a little gem of information herself. And the information is out there for people to find. You just have to look, I suppose, don't you, and put 2 and 2 together, which is what we've been doing. Yeah.
So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to go right back to when we started to. Sorry, it's like I am screen sharing, so it's going to show all our little.
I don't think we've been talking about anything we shouldn't.
No, we haven't.
We never do we?
No. Well, we talk honestly, but like it's nothing. This is my point, that if the whip's office or Private Eye or Scallywag or any of these different people can have these private conversations about, you know, they also said, I'll just say some other things I was outraged about. They also said things, I can't remember, it might have been David Steele as well, saying, oh, well, I don't see why I would have questioned Cyril Smith. I mean, he was elected mayor. And I mean, he was awarded an MBE, so I didn't see any reason why I should question his personal life. It's I don't know. Anyway.
It's all just old boys club protecting each other.
Yeah.
And whether they, and I'll just say it, whether they're actually paedophiles or not, I don't know. But they're quite happy to cover up for paedophiles. And in my eyes, that's just as bad.
Yeah, it is. And that's the point I was getting to, is that this old boys club, I think the only honest thing Ken Clark said this morning was, you know, one wasn't aware of the impact such things could have. You know,
my arse.
I know.
And anybody, any half-intelligent adult knows exactly what kind of impact sexual abuse has on a child. It destroys them. Of course it does.
He was trying to say they didn't. And what they also keep doing is slipping every time the question of paedophilia comes up, and every time Tim Fortescue is quoted as saying, you know, it might be a scandal involving small boys, they keep flipping it to the conversation of homosexuality.
Well, do you know, they do keep linking paedophilia with homosexuality. And to normal gay people, there is no link to paedophilia because they're just normal people. They're just happen to be gay. It's such an insult. But there is a huge element of the manufactured gay scene. There's a huge element. Well, it was created by paedophiles, which we know. It was created, certainly in Scotland, the whole LGBT scene was created by Ian Campbell Dunn, who was a founder of PAE. I mean, there we go. And we've still got another PAE founder running the whole Edinburgh LGBT marches and all this kind of stuff. And he was paedophile, PAE number 194. So
what's his name?
John Hean. Now he's still running it, and then they all know. And you've got the likes of Nicola Sturgeon and Alex Salmon singing his praises. And they all know he was a PAE member and he was best pals with Ian Dunn. Not only that, he's running the same companies as Ian Dunn from the same places, from Ian Dunn's old house. So they were all pals.
It's all. I wish I'd lined this up. I didn't realise how much we've been communicating. Jesus,
we talk a
I
lot.
want to get the actual links.
But then the whole PAE was created and funded certainly by Westminster and paedophile MPs.
Right.
And not just English paedophile MPs, Scottish as well. I mean, we've got Gordon Brown. He was right in there with Ian Dunn and Robin Cook. They were all pals with Ian Dunn.
Right. I'm going to actually stop share, and I'm going to pause the recording until I can find these, because I haven't lined them up. Haven't lined them up, and it's annoying me because there's so much. Or shall I just go back to share? See if I pause, I don't presume. No, I'll just carry on. Like I said, we've got nothing to hide.
It doesn't matter. Yep.
So it's just going to take a while. So keep talking because you're doing great.
Yeah. So these people are still running and they're still functioning, and they're still running the same groups that they used to run 20, 30 years ago. Now, Ian Campbell Dunn is known for, I'm going to try and word this delicately, for his water sports and coprophilia. And
What's coprophilia?
Oh, please don't ask.
Oh, give me a rough idea.
Feces.
Oh.
Yeah, and water sports being the alternative to feces. He was into all that kind of stuff. I mean, the most vile stuff. Now, of course, he admitted that he was sexually active. He put it like he was sleeping with, which means rape because they were underage. He admitted he was raping children, mainly teenager children, young teenage children, but it doesn't really matter. A child's a child. There are rumours of murder. How much of that is true, I don't know. But there are rumours out there that he murdered children as well. And then John Haynes, still to this day, he still champions Ian Campbell Dunn, and the whole LGBT scene, the manufactured scene, not just normal gay people, the manufactured scene still praise Ian Campbell Dunn. They've got him all over all their websites. They have LGBT History Week, where they don't even mention the fact that LGBT was started up by a paedophile. And it's so rampant. And we already know, especially, through Edinburgh, the LGBT office in Edinburgh, there was a massive paedophile ring was convicted. The biggest paedophile ring convicted in Scotland was running through the LGBT offices.
Wow.
Now that was also run by, the LGBT office was run by Martin Henry. I've been to this before probably. And Martin Henry was the man that is leading the Scottish Child Abuse Football Inquiry.
See, that I need you to talk to us about that, because that is so...
Well, unfortunately, one of the men in the paedophile ring said that Martin Henry was the leader. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but why would he point that man out? Because he didn't know that in 20 years' time Martin Henry was going to be the big name he is.
No. Or the one leading the investigation.
Exactly. So why would he lie?
Yeah.
Not only that, but Martin Henry was also the Scottish manager of Stop It Now, the paedophile charity. It's a charity for paedophiles to stop them being paedophiles, supposedly, run by the Lucy Faithfull Foundation.
Lucy.
I've always thought was dodgy as fuck. I'm convinced she's related to the Faithfulls, Marianne, etc.
Yeah, that's worth it. That's definitely worth looking into.
Well, I've tried and I haven't actually found enough. The fact that I can't find any information, it says it all. I mean, that screams, issues there. But I've tried to link them, and there's just so little information on her that I can't find any link between her and Marianne Faithfull. But surely Faithfull is such an unknown, it's not very common, is it? I would say.
Now, well, let's have a look here. It's not very common, no. And it is shocking how all these people are interlinked. But let's just focus in, because I'm going to be honest, there are sitting lords and sirs and MPs whose offspring have given disclosures of abuse by their parents.
Yeah.
They have not gone fully public with their disclosures. They've given them to people that they may have thought were trustworthy, but we've since discovered were gatekeepers.
Yeah.
And if this is anything, this series that I'm going to do with Kat is an appeal to those victims to come forward again.
Yeah.
And again, I'd say if you come forward one at a time, yes, of course, you're going to be in danger of being silenced. But I think the days have gone where you can just be suddenly suicided or accidentally OD'd, or as long as we've got the internet, which is not very much longer uncensored, but there's safety in numbers. So I'm really appealing to people to come forward. So here's the first thing you sent me on Steele.
Yeah, there's a lot about him.
Yeah, no, it's good. Avoided cannabis dealers to protect his father. Now, let's just say that when they refer to Billy Steele as Steele's son, and he was in court under the name Billy Dodds.
Dodge, yeah.
Not actually his son, is he? Tell us about that.
No, he's adopted.
Was he? I don't think he was even formally adopted.
I have no idea, to be honest. The fact that they know his name is Dodds and they're using it in court suggests that he was an older child, certainly, and that he knows his own name, because if it was a younger baby child when he was adopted, then the likelihood of him knowing and using his own name would be pretty slim.
Yeah.
But no, I'm unsure. It does say, we found out it does say in Vicky that he had 3 children, when in fact we think we've got 4, haven't we?
Well, certainly we have found from the research you've done and a little bit I've done that there is a Rory, there's a Graham.
Billy. Billy, yep. And there's a girl
Billy,
as well.
And then there's a girl as well. So whether, there's discrepancies between the number of offspring that WikiLeaks is listing, and certainly Rory that's taken over the tower and turned it into a party and wedding venue says, my oldest...
That happens so often. I think it's to hide evidence. I think they turn them into party wedding places. This has been the 3rd place that I know of that has been used for ritual abuse, or, well, it's been linked to ritual abuse and that kind of abuse that has been used for party and weddings. I think they do it to get enough people in. They hide all the DNA by scattering so many people's DNA.
That's possible, or it could be a very elite part of the party circuit with a wider reach. It could just be making money from what was already going on, and we don't know that. Like the Whip's office, we're voicing things that we know from 2 or 3 witnesses here and there, or blogs, or evidence, or joining dots. So,
we can back up everything we see.
Absolutely. Steele's son avoided cannabis dealer to protect his father. So, Graham Steele. Oh, this is Graham. This wasn't Billy.
Yeah. No, that was Graham. Billy's mentioned further down that article, I think, something to do with driving.
Liberal leader Sir David Steele, who's now Lord David Steele, who, in my opinion, lied through his teeth, as did,
absolutely did,
as did so many, was sentenced to 9 months imprisonment yesterday. Wow, I didn't know this. His lawyer, George Moore, said Graham would find the sentence hard, not just because he'd have to serve his time in Edinburgh's notorious Sawton prison, but also because for many years, Steele 29 had campaigned for the legalisation of cannabis. Like many amateur cannabis growers who escaped the attention of the police, Steele believed the drug was less harmful than alcohol or tobacco, which is true. In his cottage, now is this the one that had a party and somebody mysteriously died in the hot tub?
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
That was only last year.
That was last year in his cottage. And this is why when Boris Johnson pompously says, why are we wasting 60 million on this child abuse malarkey? I mean, surely to God. I mean, what difference is that going to make to child abuse? Well, this stuff is still current. And that's...
it might make paedophiles think twice if they think they're actually going to get caught.
Yeah, I know.
And jailed for it. Because the way it is just now, they've pretty much got a free rein.
Yeah, I know. And they must be, I think they're sweating a little bit in this inquiry, but I can't help noticing the deference of the barristers, where if it's a baroness or a lord or a sir, they're very deferential. They're like, oh, thank you, sir, blah, blah. Thank you, Baron so-and-so. But I don't know if you saw it last week, the most compelling witness was the journalist from Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk. And he's the one that Barbara Castle went to him with evidence of meetings of PAE, the Paedophile Information Exchange. And she said, look, these are all the MPs involved with PAE. They're having supplemental meetings in the House of Commons, and this is what they're discussing, and this is what's going on. And she gave him, like, mind-blowing evidence. And he made some cold call phone calls to the MPs and said, you know, like Leon Britton, and said, can you give any comment about your association with the paedophile information exchange and blah, blah, blah. And then he got, first of all, he got Cyril Smith came round and threatened him, really viciously threatened him to the point he thought he was going to be assaulted. And then the next day, or within a week, Special Branch raided and took all the documents off him.
Yeah.
Now, that guy gave a very brave testimony.
Good
and the
for him.
barrister was brutal with him. The barrister...
And yeah, look at the manners, etc., that he showed David Steele. He was very polite, wasn't he?
Yes, and he was saying things like, oh, we don't expect you to remember all that time back, right? And then one notable thing was... the journalist said that further revelations had jogged his memory and allowed him to piece together what had happened. And the barrister said so sneeringly, oh, so most people's memories fade with time, but what you're telling me is that your memory actually expands with time. Is that what you're saying to me? And yet 2 days later, you've got Lord Jopling, or whatever his name is, this morning saying, oh, sorry I made a late submission last week, but something jogged my memory. It's like, oh no, we're most grateful for that. So it's like double standards all the way. So we'll just, you know,
these are the people, not all lords, etc., obviously, but there is a huge element of the elite, the lords and ladies, etc., that are involved in this, or are certainly involved in the covering up of it. And I'm sorry, there's no way I'd be polite to them. They don't deserve to be polite. They don't deserve my respect.
Well, I was trying to be compassionate this morning because I was getting depressed and getting angry, getting depressed, getting angry. And then I was thinking, like, are they victims in any way whatsoever? The other telling things they were saying was, oh, Tom Watkins was not a team player. You know, he really would not, you know. And they were talking about how you would operate as a team, but what they're really talking about is the kind of Freemason
brothers,
it's
old
like,
boys old boys club.
We might know that we know what you're doing and you know what I'm doing, but we're brothers in arms, and where we go one we go all, and you know, you're really not a good chap if you dare to, you know, not take part. You know, so it's just and I know the boarding school and the public school and that whole elite upbringing is all geared towards sodomy and blackmail. It's all geared towards you're going to be traumatized at least at the age of 8. You know, I mean, there's I think you sent me a link where a Lord and Cliff Richard and someone else went and studied pornography and things around the world, and you know, supposedly to write a professional paper on it. And then afterwards, that Lord wrote a book which was a bestseller about the second year's sodomizing and whipping and brutalizing the first.
Lord Longford.
Is that who it was? No wonder he faked his own death and disappeared.
Yeah, he did some the Longford report. Totally horrific report. I mean, it's all about pornography and paedophilia and how it's okay to beat up boys, and obviously with a sexual element to it. And it's just
if you look
public schools are run to create the next leaders of the Labour Party or the Lib Dems or the whoever. It's all parties. I'm not singling out any. It's all parties. They're there to create the next top chief of police, etc., and to create their puppets. Well, they need to get something on them, don't they?
It's your entry ticket. I don't care what they say. It's like, oh no, you know, we didn't want to have, you know, but it was disgusting. It was.
You know, the amount MI5 and MI6, we all know. I mean, it's come out in Ireland about MI5 running Kincora, etc. Now, they ran that place. They created the place. They supplied the boys. They did the video footage. They got the dignitaries there. It was all them.
Yeah.
So we can't then turn around and expect MI5 to be doing their job and making sure there's not paedophiles in Parliament. Well, of course, it's them that's putting them there. It's them that's compromising them and recording them, etc.
Yeah. And when somebody's funding was threatened, I was reading this recently, and I haven't pinned down exactly which part of the research it was, but Special Branch intervened and said, no, continue funding that. We need it for our work. They need that ongoing. Lord Steele suspended Liberal Democrats investigate peer.
Yeah, he's been suspended, hasn't he? Today.
Is this recent?
Yeah, today.
Oh, tell me more.
I haven't read it. I sent you a link, I think, or I tagged you in a post. Yeah,
Right.
I haven't read it yet. I just saw the headline that, yeah, apparently he's been suspended.
Because do you know the other thing Kenneth Clark said?
Right. He admitted to knowing to paedophilia.
Of course he
Found
did.
him. I fucking jail him.
Of course he knew much more than that.
Of course he did.
This is
Well, under arrest, yeah.
Much. We think we're uncovering. They're trying to disguise it as homosexuality that occasionally lapsed into a bit younger. And one idiot tried to say small boys might be a 22-year-old man. You know, back then we used to refer to them as boys. Would you ever?
That's not true.
What
A small boy, I would think it's about a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old.
But do you know what, Of course it is.
22.
Kenneth Clark admitted to in his testimony, because they asked them this hypothetical question, you know, if you were in that situation now, what action do you think you might take? Or with hindsight, what action do you think you might have taken? And Kenneth Clark said very, very clearly, he said, I was very much an advocate. I was a child of the 60s. I was very much an advocate of homosexuality. I thought it was ridiculous that it was illegal. So if somebody had disclosed to me, you know, somebody having a homosexual affair with somebody under the age, I absolutely would not have gone and told the police.
It's not about the fact they're homosexual. It's about the fact it's underage children.
Exactly. And I
don't care whether they're homosexual, heterosexual, whatever. The fact they're abusing children, that is the problem.
Yeah, and they're not owning up to it.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is trying to keep pinning it under the homosexual. So we're not getting very
It's going to be really bad, and we actually need the LGBT, the homosexual people in Britain
to rise up,
yes, and to out these people, because it's going to they're going to all be tarred with the same brush, and it's absolutely not fair, because of course it's not true. I mean, I know countless homosexual people, and none of them would have a dream of harming a child. Of course they wouldn't. But there is an element that are, and it's only them. It's only the element that are paedophiles that are linking paedophilia to homosexuality. It's not homosexuals. It's not straight people. It's paedophiles that are doing that are causing us to make the link.
But they've done it so, like you said.
Look at David Cameron. He did it himself. Remember on Good Morning?
Who did?
He came out and said it's a homosexual witch hunt. Who said homosexual?
Yeah, that was David Cameron. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's his name? Peter. What's his name?
Yeah, Philip Schofield.
Oh, Philip Schofield.
When he handed over that list. Yeah. Now it's David Cameron that deliberately said homosexual.
Witch hunt. It's like, excuse me, I just said
homosexual. We were talking about paedophiles. Yes.
But the thing is, if it's true, and I believe it is, that the next thing to normalise is paedophilia and bestiality.
Yeah.
Then I think the likes of Kenneth Clark are looking forward to a legacy that they will have left, that, oh yes, they used to get upset about that back in the 2000s, but you know, we were ahead of the game and we knew it was normal. Yeah. It's sickening. Anyway, let me try and just go on with this a bit.
There's no amount of normalisation that is ever going to make me think that paedophilia is normal.
No, it's not. No, there's nothing. It's
disgusting. There's nothing normal about it.
Nothing normal. And to me, even, you know, the legal age of homosexuality, when I see the likes, and I'm going to stick my neck out here, I don't care what you can do, put me in jail, you know, it's already a possibility, take my little council house, get in the queue, you know, you know, we all die sometime. Like, what are you going to do? Why don't you just, and I'd say this is what I wanted to say, to anybody left to testify in the independent inquiry, especially the elites, right? Stop with this brethren and we all keep a secret and Tim Fortescue must have been having a bad day, or by small boys he meant 22-year-olds, or we were just being avant-garde with homosexuality. Stop that bullshit and tell the bloody truth, because a lot of you are very old, and believe you me, if you don't tell the truth and repent while you're alive, you'll spend a long time wishing you had. So right, so this guy got done for cannabis. Did he really go to jail for 9 months?
That's a hefty sentence, isn't it, for cannabis? You can rape a child and get 3.
Yes. I wonder, was it to pull him in line about something? Maybe possibly. He was getting ready to disclose something.
Very possibly. It does seem a fairly hefty sentence for cannabis.
Isn't it? Yesterday is actually severely embarrassed to David, the son of a Church of Scotland minister.
Oh, for the love of God.
Neither parent turned up at the hearing. This was not, after all, the first time one of their sons had appeared in court. In 1987, Steele was fined £50 at Selkirk Sheriff's Court for assaulting a police officer outside a nightclub. Now, this is Graham. This is one of their own children.
Yeah.
He was cleared of assaulting a bouncer and of breaching the peace. Maybe it was just a drunken night out. Who knows? Fight developed. He wasn't allowed in. Selkirk, blah, blah. Right. So I'm hoping Kat's going to do a written blog with this and put all the links in as well. In the meantime,
I'll load it at some point, yeah.
Yeah, we're just going to go over the outline of it.
I'll give you all the links that you can leave in the description so people can,
directly linked to Cyril Smith. To hear David Steele trying to defend Cyril Smith was appalling. Baron. So he's a baron as well.
Yeah.
God's sake. Right. So a British, right, go ahead, say what you want.
No, nothing at all. 2 of his children have been in trouble with the law, which is...
That would be Billy and Graham.
Yeah, now, to be honest, it seems pretty minimal. Cannabis and driving and, this could be childish. Young men making stupid mistakes and this kind of stuff. Like
a copper, well, that might indicate an addiction issue. Like, you'd have to be pretty drunk to assault a copper and think...
Or very angry. Or scared, I don't know.
Angry, or pretty wounded and damaged.
Yeah.
So you're saying Graham and Billy. And Billy...
There was an incident with Billy down in London. I'm not entirely sure of the ins and outs of it. I'm sure I've got the link somewhere.
You sent me the link, and I'm going to try and find it. And the link said that he was kicking off in Victoria.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
I'll see.
Billy, of course, and David both lived in Dolphin Square.
Yeah, that's suspicious. And Ken Clark again today was, these conspiracy theories about orgies taking place in Dolphin Square. I mean, for goodness sake,
How many survivors have come out now and mentioned Dolphin Square?
And how many more need to come forward?
Yeah, we need every single one, don't we?
This is why I was so thrilled when Nick, Carl Beach, who's now being, discredited and prosecuted and buried and silenced, but he was a posh boy, and it was so good because you've got all these children's home survivors, and of course their education isn't great, certainly in the children's home, because they were being brutalized. So how could they concentrate on their lessons? A lot of them are very bright and have educated themselves since, but they may have had heroin addiction, they may have had alcohol addiction, they may have been on the game, they may have been suicidal, they may have been sectioned. The trauma. So it's very easy to say, it's not a credible witness, goodness me. You've got this person.
Like that, yes, and I've got addictions is because of the trauma.
Exactly, but you've got Cyril Smith, well, he was elected mayor and he got an MBE and blah, blah, blah. So why shouldn't I trust him? But you bring me a survivor who's struggling to stay alive. But the thing with Nick that was so credible was he was a posh boy, and he just said,
one of them, yes.
Paedophile. He took me to Dolphin House and other places. He pimped me out to other paedophiles, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sorry, I found him utterly credible.
Yeah, I did too. I believe Nick.
We won't focus on the Wikipedia because it's, it's a bit tedious.
Wiki's wiki. It can be quite dodgy, some of their info.
Look, Lord Steele, because, right, still living. Now, this is Billy, who we don't know if he was adopted formally, but it's even the story of him. It says in one of these reports, Sir David Steele and his wife took Billy in when his foster carer was dying. Well, was that formal?
That's a bit weird. Yes, that's a
Were
bit...
they approved to foster? Did she actually die? What age was he? Did they formally adopt him? Who oversaw that? Was this just a case of, let's go and get a baby up the road, a baby that is in care? Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
Right.
I mean...
So
they could have got access to him anyway. It could have been done legally for all I know, but it also could have been done quite dodgily.
Well, I'm calling for Billy to come forward, and there are others. There are serving MPs.
Yeah.
There are other survivors, and I'm not saying categorically that Billy is a survivor. I'm just saying that I've had more than one person talk about disclosures from this person, and unfortunately, disclosures were made to gatekeepers, which could in turn have been reported back to Lord Steele, which could in turn have resulted in Billy's career suddenly taking off. So, for instance, Billy's listed in one article as having his mortgage paid by welfare and being out of work and down on his luck, and now he's living the big screen dream. So I don't know, was that just good fortune or was it a silencer? It's a long way from T Street in Galashiels.
Galashiels, yeah, that's in the Borders.
Right, to the bright lights of London and directing some of the best-known faces in the British film industry. This was 2014. This is quite bloody
Very recent, yes.
But while he might now be rubbing shoulders with the likes of Stephen Burkoff and Danny Dyer, William Steele remains proud of his Borders roots. Now, William Steele or William Dodds? He appeared in court on a previous reported as William Dodds.
As Dodds. Like I say, the fact that even using his original surname is weird.
He was a baby when he was taken in.
Yeah, it's weird. Normally, people that have been adopted don't use their original surname. Whatever surname they use, they stick to.
There is a possibility that it might have been so as not to embarrass the Steele family. Who knows? But later, his first feature film, The Rapture, which I'm interested in because I'm a Christian. I was previously evangelical and, you know, a bit mind-controlled, but I'm interested why he made a film called The Rapture, which he has both written and directed, will be released. And if you're a Christian, Billy, all the more reason to speak up, please.
I think this is it's more than likely to be one of their almost piss takes of Christianity.
All right.
You know what I mean?
An intense...
In fact, I mean, looking at the people that are working there, they're big names, you know? Mm. They're all linked to elites, etc. Right. Martin Kemp, etc. These are big names.
Yeah. He's from EastEnders, isn't he?
Yeah, and also Spandau Ballet.
Oh.
Isn't he? Isn't he one of the ones that's I
thought, am I thinking of Gary Kemp? I was thinking of...
They were both in Spandau Ballet, weren't they? Is it Spandau Ballet?
I don't know. We'd have to look that up. Because I was thinking of that, you know, the two brothers, EastEnders, and one of them went on to be a movie star. That's who I was thinking.
That is who it is.
Wow. And he was involved in Spandau Ballet as well.
I think so.
Which was all Gary Glitter and all that scene. Right, so an intense and surreal thriller. Its story is woven around a plot by an international art thief, played by Martin Kemp, and a corrupt politician. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's Spandau Ballet, just so you know. Yes, he was Spandau Ballet.
Right.
And his brother Gary.
Right, played by Phil Davis, to steal an ancient... Yeah, the Spear of Destiny. And
I mean, it goes on about Knights, Templars and all this.
Yeah, that's all a bit Freemasonic.
Yeah, it's one of the sinful films, Masonic key.
The spear that was used, that's all a bit Gnostic.
Yeah.
Members of a secret society, here we go. They plan to use the spear to fulfill an ancient prophecy. And this is going on in America with Cicada 3301 and different people presenting as Christians, but they're not at all. And they have games like you have to find the Spear of Destiny, and you have, you know.
See that there? Hold on a second. It goes on to say they enlist the help of bitter scientist Professor Anderson, played by Gary Kemp, and his assistant, played by Jamie Murray. Is that Jamie Murray as Andy's brother? Andy Murray's brother? I don't know.
Wow.
It may not be, maybe somebody else called Jamie Murray, but Jamie Murray is Andy Murray's brother.
That's worth looking up, isn't it? Definitely. See, and this is the beauty, because Kat is an expert, and anybody that goes deep into this work, you start to see it's not an artificial, I have to join dots that don't exist. They jump out at you.
Yeah, they do.
Like the McCanns, Jerry McCann, Celtic Football Club, the Footy investigation, the LGBT, the birth of Pi. It's like it's
all the same thing over and over and over again. It's difficult not to join dots. They're already joined for you. It's just looking.
Yeah, and that's
like
Eyes Wide Shut. Directed by the mysterious Stephen Burkoff, or agents of the Vatican. This is quite deep. And a gang of mercenary, after being educated. Let's read this a bit more. After being educated in Galashiels, he went on to study with the Scottish Youth Theatre and at the Barbican. One of my tutors from Warwick University went on to be director at the Barbican. I spent nearly 33 years working as an actor on the stage and in film and television, and I made the switch to directing and writing because I'd pretty much achieved what I'd wanted. He told The Southern this week from his home in London's Highgate.
Yeah.
I didn't really want the big fame stuff, as I'd been brought up in that kind of world for part of my life. Who is the adopted son of former Borders MP and Lib Dem leader David Steele, now Lord Steele of Akewood. So, right, I think he occasionally goes back to the north, but...
Yeah, I think from what I can gather, he's pretty much settled in London.
Yeah, I think this
yeah.
article says he's got 6 children and, you know, happily living in Highgate and successful. But I'm just saying, if you've got a story to tell, Graham or Billy or young Smith or anybody has a story to tell, now's the time to tell it. Do not let these grandees of the British establishment at the expense of the British public stand up and lie at the expense of other survivors
and other children. Yep.
Yeah, and other children, when you are sitting on something that will just expose the lies and change. This can be a change. It can be. I want us to. Do you mind doing a series of this with me? Like once.
That's absolutely fine. Yeah.
We've only touched on the links we've got here.
Yeah.
And it's not just about Sir David Steele, although I'm very happy to hear he's been suspended. But equally, if you want to go on technicalities, Ken Clark for saying that he absolutely wouldn't have reported illegal goings on. You know, of course he would.
Because he would have been a part of it.
It's like, are you serving? Are you still in power? So this is part 1, and you know, we will continue to focus in on members of Parliament, lords, barons, baronesses, and even the barristers. How dare they defer to people that they hope to emulate, and maybe I'll be a sir one day if I'm really good at this, and you know, and whatever. How dare you defer to them and then brutalise people like that journalist who said, "This is a cover-up, happening again. It's happening again. This is a cover-up." What? You know. So look at. We'll be back in touch. God bless. Just tell people your blog.
Spidercatweb.blog. You can find me there.
Yeah, and I'm Angela's Caches. .org and YouTube. We've both got YouTube. It's just Cat on YouTube, right?
Yeah, just Cat.
Angela Power Disney on YouTube. God bless, and we'll do parts 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll keep covering this. Thanks a million.